Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nuanced Needed podcast. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Sam.
And we have Britt Frank here today.
Woohoo!
Yay! I'm so happy to be here. Hello.
Hello, Britt. Do you want to, before we get into it, just tell us a little bit about you? I mean, you have you have multiple books. Mm-hmm. You are a therapist. You specialize in trauma and narcissism. But yeah, tell us all the stuff.
Well, that sounds nice. So my polished up, buttoned up, forward-facing professional resume is all that stuff.
Yes.
I went to Duke and I have my master's and
yes.
I'm trained in IFS and somatic experiencing and yada, yada. The other part of my resume, which is equally true, is recovering drug addict, codependent, borderline personality disorder, OCD, trichotillomania. If you're unfamiliar with that, that's hair pulling disorder. It's delightful, fun. Do not recommend.
Yes.
So yeah, both equally true. And here we are to talk about the things that need talking about.
Amen.
Wait, I have to tell you something, Britt. That's so I don't love that you had trichotillomania, but I never talk about this. But when I was super addicted to Adderall, I got insane trichotillomania and I pulled out all my eyebrows. Yeah. And then I didn't have eyebrows for multiple years.
Aww.
And it was so sad. And I told everyone that I got an infection from a bad wax, but it was me sitting in front of my mirror for hours and hours and hours and hours at a time. And I became convinced that I had ingrown hairs.
Oh.
And I would just stab myself with tweezers to try to get the hair to come out. But I was just wounding myself on my face. So.
It's such all of the OCD manifestations are weird and unpleasant and awful. Yeah. I don't want to talk about this one publicly very often either, but the hair pulling one is such a interesting manifestation of trauma. Isn't it?
Yeah. Control.
Yeah. So
but that is not what we're talking about today.
No.
We are talking about narcissism. A lot of you all have been asking us to do a nuanced deep dive on this. And while Sam and I definitely have opinions and thoughts on this, we are not experts. Nope. And there are very few people that I feel comfortable handling this conversation with. And Britt, you've backed away from talking about narcissism as much online, but you not only clinically work with this a lot, but you have experience in your life with this as well.
Multiple relationships of varying severity, from mild gaslighting, and we'll talk about what that actually means, to, violence, aggressive, and everything in between. So it's really it's not a new issue, but it's such a new topic that the social media world was actually talking about it before the therapy world was. And so, which is strange and unfortunate, but yes, I have experience on this from both sides of the couch, from the ceiling, from every which way.
I do. I have a thought that I think I want to use to kick us off with this. And my clinical opinion is I think when we are labeling everybody a narcissist, we are giving way too many people too much credit.
Say more. I love that. Nice reframe. Hot take.
I want to be checked on this if this is something that I'm not understanding. But one, I think, for someone to have a legitimate clinical diagnosis of narcissism, I think is actually more rare than people want to admit. I think the issue is, like any diagnosis, we all can develop traits of things. And I think there are a lot of people who, for one reason or another, exhibit a lot of narcissistic traits, but they actually couldn't be ID'd as a narcissist. And I just think there are a lot of people that are, in fact, just assholes. And there's unfortunately, I think we could have a conversation that there needs to be a clinical diagnosis of asshole in the DSM, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So I just think we're with kind of this conversation. Everybody you hear, my ex was a narcissist. My dad was a covert narcissist. My mom has narcissism. My friend was a narcissist, but I didn't realize I was living with narcissism. It's thrown around for everything. And I think what's happening is we are diminishing the experiences of the people who have truly lived through a relationship with someone who has narcissism versus people that are just in difficult relationships. And so I think that's where I lie with it. I feel frustrated that it's just kind of become this blanket terminology to describe behavior that we don't like. And I think that's like my starting thought for you.
Yeah.
Britt.
What do you think, Britt?
Well, I agree. But here's the paradox. Narcissism is incredibly overused as a term, but it's also incredibly underused correctly. Because the real narcissists are running around totally unchecked because not every run-of-the-mill asshole is a narcissist. Narcissists are actually a lot more creative in how they go about doing things. And so it's really hard to, if you're talking and narcissism, like anything, is a spectrum. High-level narcissists, you would never look at them and be able to say, that's a I mean, if you're talking the grandiose kinds, I'm the king of the world or I'm the queen of existence, like, that kind's really easy to see. But it's an incredibly overused term and it's an incredibly underused term because I don't know if it's as rare. The mental health world would have us believe it's incredibly
what
rare.
they say, like 1%, right?
Don't agree with that. I do think it's not what we are calling it. The people who are suffering and they have no idea what it is or what to call it or how or why. And we also need to distinguish narcissism, narcissistic, and narcissist. Those are three, and this is not me just being a word nerd. Yeah. Those three really need to be separated for us to talk. I mean, I just like to get rid of the word in general. I love, Sam, what you said about we're giving them too much credit. Because anytime we're even trying to diagnose the other person, we are completely outsourcing our agency and our power. It's not, why did they do that? It's not, are they a narcissist? It's, what am I tolerating? What are my choices? And what am I willing to do? And so, we give the diagnosis all of this credit where one of the greatest tricks the narcissist pulled was convincing us that we have to obsess over their diagnosis. It's a way that we stay hooked into the dilemma. So that's a lot, but that's how I feel.
This is so interesting too, because with Sam, what you said and what you said, Britt, it's like the credit, right, is that they're maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Britt, like calculated and sneaky and smart in a lot of ways, right? Of flying under the radar. Like you said, a lot of narcissists don't get diagnosed because they know enough to just do enough to get their way, but not too much, right? Where like assholes are like sloppier and more aggressive.
And don't care.
They bulldoze boundaries maybe versus creeping up to the edge and pushing it slowly, methodically over time. Is that what you mean?
Yes. That's so incredibly well said. And it's true. It's like not everyone who cheats is a narcissist. Like that's an asshole behavior objectively, but there's so much. And I appreciate what you said about me. You guys are probably the only people I'd have this conversation with because the word narcissist has gotten so ridiculous in our language and in our culture and in our dating and whatnot, that it's like, on the one hand, let's not focus on the diagnosis, let's focus on impact. And because we're all good at what we do, let's talk about what it is so we can get some clarity on it. Because it's so confusing the way it's used. Narcissism is the quality. Narcissistic is I am now embodying that quality. So a narcissist is someone who is largely dominated by the quality of narcissism. And from the parts work perspective, a narcissist is, we all have a full set of parts. Everyone has an inner sociopath, an inner narcissist, an inner asshole. But a narcissist, I have a full set. I have really interesting parts of me that I don't let come out and do everything they think or feel. But a narcissist in the parts work, like multiplicity, we all have lots of parts, is someone who is so dominated by that one quality that takes over every other impulse, every other potential, every other everything. So narcissism is the quality, narcissistic is how I'm embodying it, narcissist is this is all I do and this is what I'm about, and I'm both underused and overused as a term.
I also, first of all, I love that you broke that down, because I think so many people are seeing it so frequently. It's kind of become, they all are the same thing.
Yes.
And they can be used to describe whatever. I also think, in kind of going back to your idea of focusing on the diagnosis, right, and the label, I have found with the people that I've worked with and conversations that I've had, you know, with people on other podcasts and, you know, conversations on social media and different things, is that when we focus solely on the diagnosis, there is an element of feeling disempowered.
Yeah.
Feeling unempowered. Like, because it feels like you're up against this thing that is so impossible. There's nothing to be done. I am a victim. I was a victim. I will be a victim. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I really like that you brought up this idea, because I think this is something that can be applied across issues, right? Whether we're talking about depression, anxiety, kind of these more mainstream, for lack of a better term, diagnoses that are, I think, more socially understood to a point. But people still feel like they're kind of coming up against this brick wall that is impossible to surmount. And they just have to figure out how to live every day with this reality, when in fact we need to be focused much more on how we respond to these behaviors, as opposed to trying to control the behavior in the other person.
And to tail onto that, because I agree 1,000%, narcissism is currently, and I know you know this, I'm just saying it so it's out there, narcissism or narcissist personality disorder is categorized as a personality disorder, which makes me want to throw my DSM at like the wall. I do not think of narcissism as a personality disorder, because our personalities are so complex. Which personality of mine are we talking about? I've got 18 different personalities on any given day. Like the way I'm speaking now in my clinical, like sassy Brit voice is not how I sound later when I'm picking my toes on my couch. Is not how I sound when I'm out with my friends. I mean, come on, we all do weird things when we're alone. Let's come on.
Yeah, like pick our eyebrows.
It might not be weird. Pick our eyebrows, exactly. Like it's so fun, like stacking toenails in a pile. This my narrow spicy brain. Where was I? Personality disorders aren't a thing. Okay, so like our personality is too complex to be reduced to normal or disordered. I think of narcissism, and this is a hot take, but I stand by it, as a process addiction, not as a personality disorder. I will explain. So a chemical addiction, obviously you drink, you get drunk, you do drugs, you shoot up, you snort, whatever. That's a chemical addiction. I have ingested a chemical that has altered me, and I'm doing it despite destroying my life. A process addiction is any pattern of behavior where there's no chemical involved, but I'm doing it over and over again despite negative consequences. It's getting more extreme over time. I am continuing to feed it despite, by all objective measures, it being bad. That's gambling addiction. That's video game addiction. Narcissism is a pattern of behavior that persists over time despite negative impact, despite negative consequences. It gets more severe over time. That is the definition of addiction, not personality disorder. So we got to put it in the category that I think it should be in, which is personalities can't be disordered. Behaviors can. Narcissism is an addiction, not a personality problem.
Do you think too, I mean, this is a slight tangent, but have you heard at all, Britt, about talking about addiction also as like a learning disorder of like your brain learns like things? Because that also sounds very similar to like a process addiction. And what you're talking about is the narcissist sort of learns over time with different people how to get their way, how to push boundaries, all of that.
Yeah. And the models of addiction, which I know is like a whole other topic that we could totally nerd out on. There's the social learning theory. There's the genetic theory. There's the disease model. And the answer is, I don't know. Everyone's complex and human. But the social learning model and the adapting to pain in not healthy ways model the pain management way. That all seems to fit. If you look at the qualities of narcissism and people who are narcissistic and people who are high level NPD type people, it does follow the model of addiction much more so than anything else that I've seen.
That is a fascinating take that I'm going to have to marinate on for a moment. I think that the question that comes to my mind with kind of as we're like getting into the weeds of like what this really is and what this looks like, I would love to hear from you. What are the traits that you are looking for in this? Because I think there's a bunch of, armchair therapists on social media that have like a laundry list of traits that they have now ascribed to this condition. I think we'll put it that way. What are the signs and symptoms that you are looking for when we are talking about the concept of narcissism?
So I'm going to answer the question, obviously, because that's what we're here to do. But like, I would argue if someone not you were to ask me that, I would say, what does it matter? How like someone lying, that could mean that they're an asshole. It could mean they're scared. It could mean they're hungry. It could mean they're hungover. It could mean that they're really narcissistic. But like the signs of narcissism would be better reframed as, what are the things I am tolerating in my relationships? So red flags for dating a narcissist makes great clickbait, but it doesn't actually help the person who is feeling overwhelmed and run down and confused and can't sleep and doesn't understand what's going on and which way. And so the signs to watch for, those things drive me a little bananas because it's like, okay, you have the list.
So I'm hearing there's a difference between, which is obvious, right? There's a difference of like clinically what you're looking for as like, traits that would lead you to the symptom or the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder, which is in the DSM. But what you're kind of saying, Britt, is what matters less is the outward behavior, because they can be ascribed to so many different things. And what actually matters is, one of the things I think that is true about, if you're with a narcissist is you are chronically confused.
I was going to say, that's the one that I will say more than anything else. Confusion is the biggest sign of gaslighting. And I have never not, and I don't use always and never very often. I have never not seen it the case where confusion is accompanied by narcissistic qualities and gaslighting. Again, not necessarily you're a narcissist with a T, but run-of-the-mill assholeness creates anger, not confusion. Run-of-the-mill, you're just being a punk, doesn't create this sense of what's real. Who am I? Who are you? I don't even know if I can trust myself to believe anything I'm thinking. I would say the red flags that you're dating a narcissist or your parent is a narcissist is really the one. And Amanda, you nailed it. It's confusion.
Got it. So it matters less, right? They cut someone off in traffic. They yell. They're abusive. It's like it is how you feel, your internal experience, which isn't very easy to talk about, right? Or understand, because everyone's experience is a bit different.
And here's another one is, and again, it's so complicated because you can't really study this or measure it. And frankly, half the people with diagnosable NPD will never see a therapist office because they won't need to. And it's like, occasionally when it walks through the door, it's like, oh, it's not because they got caught. It's because some narcissistic people love therapy because they get lots of attention and you can wrestle ideas with someone who's not invested in what you do. And it's a great container for that. So feeling confused is one. Another one is if you're with a person and while you're with them, you feel like $1 gajillion and you feel that the breath of the angels shining down on you and all of the heart flutter. It could be a friendship too. It doesn't have to be romantic, but you just feel like the best version of yourself. When that person is gone, do you still feel like that? Or do you suddenly start to feel like you're in like meth withdrawal where you feel anxious and fidgety? And if I don't get a text from that person in the next hour, I'm not going to be okay. Because authentic connection should stick when you're done connecting with the person. If you're not connecting with the person and it just drains out of you like a cup with no bottom, just like whoosh, that's kind of a problem. If someone makes you feel amazing when you're with them and anxious when you're not, that plus confusion, it's a very short list, but that would be my list.
And with the confusion piece, because I can think of a lot of questions some of my clients would have with that. Is that because they kind of go no contact following being together, or they're hard to get a hold of, or they're not consistent, or they cancel on plans? Is that idea of focusing on how you feel when you're not there? Because eventually, like, unless you're married with somebody, and even if you are married, people eventually go different places and are apart, right? So what would cause that type of like confusion and doubt and kind of that itchy, methy feeling?
The itchy, methy feeling. I love that so much. And like my disclaimer with the feeling confused, it's like, oh, they didn't text me today. I'm confused. Therefore, they're a narcissist. It's like, no. Do not say, if you're listening to this, well, Britt said you're being confusing, therefore you're a narcissist. No, I did not say that. So like in a marriage, or in a dating relationship, it doesn't matter. I've been in relationships where like if I even so much as leave the house, I'm suddenly terrified that they're going to cheat on me or they're going to die or something terrible will happen. I remember dating someone where I felt securely attached. I'm like, oh, wait, you mean I can travel and you can travel and this isn't a thing? You know, I don't have this all day debilitating sense of impending doom. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? And again, it's nuance needed because sometimes it's not that they're being confusing. It's that we are insecurely attached to ourselves or we have trauma or we have other things that have gone undealt with. And that's what's creating the confusion, which is why you two are the only people I talk to about this. Cause it's like, yes, and and nuance always.
Well, I think too, I mean, I am not a narcissism expert, but I do have a little bit of personal experience with it. And I think the confusion, Sam, too, is like, you don't know which version of them is going to show up. You don't know. Some of them are really good at like talking circles around you so much that you leave the conversation and you're like, what did they say? What did I say? What did I agree to? What happened, sort of? Or like they're so manipulative but calculated in their manipulation that it isn't just like regular. It was kind of what I was saying about this like systematically pushing boundaries of they know enough where if you talk to someone about what they did, if someone didn't know the whole story, they would be like, that's not a big deal. Like, just, you know, you're being too uptight. But they are so calculated. They know the exact, like they know which buttons to push for you that aren't aggressively pushing buttons, but it's like snide remarks. It's undercutting. But it's maintaining a veil of, oh, well, I was just asking a question. Not an overt narcissist, but more of a covert narcissist. And I think, Britt, you're going to probably also say that is maybe, I don't know what the statistics are, but I think we're very good at spotting the overt, you know, ones like we were saying, where maybe it's more common or it's just not talked about that this is the covert stuff.
Yes. And then exactly. And going back to the things to look for, and this is a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, like here's how the narcissist sausage is made. One of the relational patterns that I've seen, just because I wanted to have some fun, geeky academic thing, it was like, I call it the narcissist relational matrix. And I've also not seen this not true. So this is a thing. And again, it's so hard because no one's really, it's so new in terms of the research. Like I haven't been in a lab with, you know, double blinds, peer-reviewed experimental things. This is all just anecdotal from my own experience. So the narcissist relationship matrix, and this is a big thing that I look for, a narcissist with a T, NPD, high level, whatever you want to call it, will have a primary relationship, usually romantic, that is the main source of their sense of okayness. Then they will have a secondary so I call it the primary pseudo-intimate relationship. Then they'll have a secondary pseudo-intimate relationship. So this is let's say someone's married. and I'm gonna gender here, but like, let's say the husband has a wife and the wife is the primary intimate relationship. That person, if they're a narcissist, will likely also have an affair partner that they have pseudo intimacy with, because they are teeing up a whole thing. But then they also need a non-intimate source. And so I'll use like someone who's using sex as the primary thing. So we've got the wife, we've got the affair partner, and the affair partner gets the gifts and the love bombing and gets the I love yous and you're the only one for me and my wife doesn't understand me the way you do. But then there's a third box on this matrix, and that is complete devalue, discard types of relationships, which might be going to prostitutes. It might be going and devaluing people and not building up the intimacy at all. And then there's another box of people who esteem and value them, have no idea what's going on in the others. So that creates 4 very distinct relationships: the primary, the secondary, the devalue, and the esteem. And again, it's not an exact science. So if you're diagramming this out,
I was going to say, we should I'm going to make a diagram, I think, of this on our Substack.
That's a thing, right? Versus I'm just, cheating because whatever. This is a very consciously constructed series of relationships that all serve to keep that person feeling okay and feeling filled up. And the biggest myth is that narcissists love themselves. So people who love themselves don't act like assholes. So no.
And is this the whole, right? Because I think a term that's sometimes thrown around online is like which I don't even fully understand, is like the narcissistic supply. Is that what can you define, what is this? I know we talked about it in terms of a processing disorder. So, or a process addiction. So this makes sense. But yeah, can you explain what that term means?
I've seen that term thrown around too, and I don't have a problem with it. It's like picking. It's your drug, right? So if you're so if we're going back to the narcissist matrix, if you're the wife in my example, that's supplying a sense of I'm married, so I have a lot of my needs met here, and so the affair partner is supplying a sense of excitement and danger and game playing, and then the people that I'm devaluing outright, they are supplying me with dopamine hits and a sense of danger. And then the people that think I'm awesome are supplying me with enough ego cover that I can justify what I'm doing. So narcissistic supply means you're feeding the addiction in any number of ways.
And when you had said, let's say they're using sex as their, I forget the word you used, what are other things, I guess, that narcissists use? We wanted to share really quickly that we have officially launched a Substack.
It's called Nuance Needed. We got really creative with the title. But yeah, we're just going to be posting all of our behind the scenes stuff there. We're going to have bonus episodes. I'm doing a lot of my longer pep talks on there, at least 2 a month.
And you also don't have to pay, you can pay to get that extra content, but we also are excited to just create community with you all. And we've gotten into really cool discussions with listeners based on what they think. So we'd love to chat with you more.
Yeah, we know people are really lonely right now.
Yeah.
And, something that we really have always, Amanda and I have both always dreamed about doing, is having more of a community, a community of like-minded people where we can chat about things in depth and really get curious about what things mean and how we can apply it to ourselves individually. And that is really what we want our Substack to be, and us sharing the information and the tools and the insights that you guys need in order to be able to have those more nuanced, educated conversations.
Absolutely. So join us at nuanceneeded.substack.com, and we'd love to see you there.
Narcissist or highly narcissistic people with a C
love
trying drama triangles, love pitting people against each other, and love the gameplay of telling one person one thing and telling another person another thing, and then before you know it, you're off to the races. Which is why I always tell people, regardless of whether this person's a narcissist, we need to turn drama triangles into lines. Meaning, don't let them talk to you about someone else. Like, I can only talk to you. So-and-so at work is such a bitch. And da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, in a healthy, intimate partnership, it's tricky because you do want to be able to vent to your partner, but there's a subtle quality when someone's pitting people against each other that is a very smart, subtle, sly way of creating these drama triangles, which is another form of supply.
So essentially, Bravo as a channel is built
on drama triangles, yes.
On narcissism.
M with the M, yes.
Yeah.
That's like essentially that's what it is.
And to win, right? Because if we're talking about like Real Housewives, right? Who is the winner? Who does the best during the season? It is who is able to sort of be the best narcissist, because you have to cause enough drama behind the scenes that you have a good storyline, but you also have to maintain the facade that you are good and you're not outwardly purposely causing drama. The drama just happens to fall into your lap and you do the best job.
And the person that always just magically gets told things.
Yes. And they bring it up, but they bring it up for the good of the crew.
I heard this.
This is, I'm praying for her. Bless her heart. Let's pray for her because she sucks.
Well, and also the like, I heard this and I just feel like you needed to know.
Gross.
I just feel like you needed to know this horrible, awful, hurtful thing that someone said behind your back. I just couldn't.
That there's no solution for it.
Yeah, I couldn't live with myself if you didn't know this.
I'm such a hero.
I would want to know.
Wow.
This is really good, Britt. This is really mind-blowing to me. I'm like seeing pieces coming together.
Well, especially like if we kind of like lay out, like summarize everything that you've laid out so far, right? This idea of this matrix, right? This kind of like 4-way shape that they're like pitting people into to kind of fit all these different needs. Then we have the triangulation related to causing conflict and creating a space where they are never not in the know, right? They are the one orchestrating the problems in a way that they can keep this facade going that they are never the problem, everybody else is the problem, to distract from what their real problems are. While also identifying this idea of like this supply. Like they're needing these shapes, for lack of a better term, to ensure that they're getting this validation need met constantly.
I'm thinking about it too as an addiction also of like it can almost be understood simply as, right, you have Britt will relate to this. You have a primary drug of choice that you want the most, but sometimes it doesn't work or it's not enough. So you need to substitute with other drugs, or, right, the primary drug it's causing side effects that aren't ideal. So you need another drug to counteract some of those side effects.
That's exactly right.
Britt, how would you describe the drama triangle for people who aren't familiar with the phrase?
So there's like the official drama triangle that they taught us in school with perpetrator and victim, and that's not really what I'm talking about.
Okay.
This, even though that's a thing and it's adjacent, this is more like I'm here, I have person A and person B, and I'm creating a situation where everyone is telling me things and I'm telling them things, but they're not talking to each other. That's the type of, my like scrappy take on the Cartman drama triangle? I think is what we called it.
Can you also go into, because I had brought up the term covert narcissist, can you talk about the different types and give more insight onto that?
Yeah, and like the people who actually study this full time and do actual research on it will talk about different cycles of narcissism, the idealize, devalue, discard, where you're the best thing in the world and now I'm poking at you till you feel like you suck and now I'm going to get rid of you. Like that's another triangle. That's another type of triangle. So like if narcissism had a shape, it would be a triangle. And I love triangles, so I'm not anti-triangle. Not a thing. Britt is trianglist. No. So the different types of narcissism with an M would be the obvious kind. Like you can watch any Sunday morning news show about politics and see what
we talk openly about that here.
He looks like. It's so like shake head. What? Okay, well, that's easy to spot. Okay, so the covert narcissist is the kind where you can't really tell. Like this is the spiritual person who like will teach and I'm not anti-yoga, I'm not anti-spirituality, disclaimer, nuance needed. Like the person who's like zen and love and light, but I'm going to go home at the end of the day and just be a total disrespectful, unregulated, emotional, whatever, but I am a spiritual guru.
Well, some of these self-help gurus, I would say, which is maybe a hot take.
Covert narcissist.
If you want to be on a pedestal like that.
Correct.
So really, with that one, we're talking a lot about masking too.
Yeah, covert narcissist is the masking kind.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And that could be a spiritual narcissist, would be someone who's a guru, public facing, and an asshole behind closed doors, and it's calculated about creating these triangles and doing that. There's a really interesting one called an inverted narcissist, which is, people aren't going to like this, but it's like, take it, leave it, whatever. But what we call codependency is actually a form of inverted narcissism. Okay, I'll unpack that before I get canceled. So codependency is not, I just care so much about you. No, it's, and I'm, disclaimer, fully codependent and working on that actively on the daily. So I'm not judging. It's just what it is. It's not, I care so much about you, it hurts. It's, I am so concerned about my sense of safety, security, and comfort that I am going to do whatever it takes, even to my own detriment, to make sure you're okay. I'm going to avoid me by obsessing on you. But that is a form of inverted narcissism, because even though I'm obsessing about you, my goal is still to protect me. And so codependency is a form of narcissism. Doesn't mean you're a narcissist. Doesn't mean you have MPD. It's just a form of narcissism with an M. And then vulnerable narcissism are the people who are like, I'm just the worst. If like, you know, you can't be with me because I just hurt everybody I come into contact with. And I just hate how horrible. Those are the people who are the best worst. I'm the worst person you've ever met. That's a vulnerable narcissist.
And do you find that they can flip at all? Or because I've heard a lot, like the vulnerable narcissist and the covert narcissist used somewhat interchangeably.
Yeah, there's also the somatic narcissist, and those are the people who take a lot of gym selfies. And there's nothing wrong with gym selfies or bathroom selfies. If that's your jam, have at it. But a somatic narcissist is obsessed with their physicality and their sexual performance and being with the most beautiful specimens of human they can find or whatever. And there are like flip-flopping characteristics. And so you could be all of the above. You could be one. And again, because it's a spectrum, I'm more inclined to describe it in terms of narcissism than narcissist. Because again, the whole like the clinical diagnosis requirements also assume that that person's going to come in for treatment, which isn't a thing.
Right.
I can throw in a really interesting, quirky thing that also distinguishes a narcissist from a regular asshole. Is if you're the primary source of supply, if you're the primary intimate relationship, that narcissist will never, ever leave. And that's when you get on these patterns of, I hate you and we're going to separate, but then we're going to get back together. When people have these, they'll come to me and they'll be like, oh, I'm so relieved. They said they were done with me. And I'm like, well, if you were the primary, and yes, like narcissists do discard, but they discard boxes 2 and 3 and 4. They don't discard box 1. They will, a narcissist in box 1, if you're the supply, they will only go away when you are done, when you lock the door and seal it and put a brick wall around it. Because if there's even and this could take a year, 10 years, a lifetime. If there's a sense that that door is still open, they will come back. I don't care how done with you they are. If you're not done, they will be back. And that's something to be really aware of, because there's no such thing as closure if you are a box 1 source of supply. It's not closure is we loved, we lost, let's take our lessons and I wish you the best and we shall move on. Like like this is not closure. This is ripping your arm out of a lion's mouth. It's not a nice, neat, clean cut. It's messy and bloody, and there's like tissue falling out of your arm onto the ground, and there is no done and there is no closure until you create it for yourself.
What would you say? And because what you're also describing, Britt, is like the cycle of abuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
A bit too, right? So it's like people can be abusive or be in cycles of abuse and not be in one with a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
What are there specific characteristics besides maybe them not leaving that would help someone distinguish that? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but my therapist brain is just curious about that.
It's tricky, right? Because the cycle of abuse, which we know, there's the we're fine, and then tension builds, and then there's a crisis, and then there's the shame, guilt, remorse, I'm so sorry, and then the forgiveness, and then we're back. And so if you can look that up. Like I didn't come up with that. That's just a documented.
Yeah, we'll link it in the Substack we do on this that will have lots of graphs and charts.
That's the thing. With narcissism, you're going to have more confusion because in non-narcissist, I mean, you could argue that all abuse is narcissistic, but with a non-narcissist abuser, there'll be anger and fear and sadness and shame and guilt, but not confusion.
That makes sense.
And like confusion on, because to me also the term that keeps coming up when we talk about this confusion is gaslighting.
Yes.
And so the confusion to me, if we're thinking of this in the abuse cycle, right, is well, was it that bad? Was it like, could that have actually been my fault? I actually did that thing before the thing happened. And so was this me? Like, is that prevalent within it as well?
So I think that feeling is present whether abuse is narcissistic or not. But the difference is, so the term gaslighting cracks me up because it's like from a Hitchcock movie. Like, I don't think, I didn't know that until I was using the word before I knew. Like, no, Hitchcock had a movie called Gaslight where the dude wanted to kill his wife for the money. So he'd like convince her she was crazy by turning lights on and off. And like back then they used gas for their lights. So gaslight, that's what we call it. A gaslighter abuser. So to answer your question, in regular abuse cycles, by the way, when I say regular, I don't mean one's good.
Of course not.
Like they're all objectively
standard,
shitty, right? So did I cause it? Was it me? That's pretty standard. But in a narcissistic environment, the narcissistic person will make you feel or try to make you feel like it was. Like very subtly implying if you hadn't, you made me do it. And that expression, no one can make you feel anything, has never been gaslit because that's just not true.
What would do you like the term gaslighting? I
don't have a better one. So like, sure.
Because I think that's a whole nother, right? Like, part of this, right, is the overuse of gaslight. And in some ways, I think like it is good that we're talking about this and stuff like that. But it leads me, can we talk about what is the difference between gaslighting and lying? Because I think a lot of times people say they're being gaslit when someone is just lying to them.
I love that question so much because it's so true. And just to simplify it all the way down, we can like nuance it out. Lying is I didn't do it. Gaslighting is you didn't see it. So like if I come home drunk, if I'm lying, I can say I wasn't out drinking. But if you see me covered in rum and I'm puking and slurring my words and staggering, and then I tell you, you didn't see that. I came home fine. What are you talking about? There's no smell on me. You must be smelling something. That's gaslighting. Lying is me trying to say I didn't do a thing. Gaslighting is me telling you you did not see the thing that you saw.
Got it. That's very helpful and simple.
That's the simple version of it. Yeah.
What would you say in terms of, do you feel like people are overusing the word gaslighting? Like one of my big pet peeves is that people use the word self-gaslight a lot, which if you break it down with what you just said, doesn't make any I guess if you're telling a part of yourself you didn't see, I guess you could gaslight yourself an addiction of like, no, you didn't see me do this thing that I did.
Or is that lying, right?
Right. But yeah, what do you think about the term self-gaslighting?
Oh, that's tricky because it's like I know I lied to myself, and like for what you just said, I guess technically I could, if all my parts are just like up in arms, I could say to one part from another part, you didn't see that happen. That never happened. So like on a technicality, sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's more lying to yourself than
Right.
gaslighting yourself. But there's also unintentional, non-malicious gaslighting. And like, okay, if I'm going to say it, but if you've ever, not you, but if anyone has ever done this, no shame. Because this one is called what I call non-malicious gaslighting, because it's not intended to cause harm. Let's say a parent comes home and they've had a really shitty day at work and they have a little kid, and the kid sees that you are visibly upset, and the kid says, "What's wrong?" And you say to that child, "Nothing, everything is fine. I'm fine." Like, I get the parent doesn't want to vomit onto the kid, and I get that they may think they're protecting the kid, but gaslighting is when you tell someone they're not seeing what they're seeing. And that child is seeing that you're upset. And so what they learn is I can't trust myself because I'm seeing my parents crying. I'm seeing they're throwing their shoes at the wall and stomping around, but they're telling me they're fine. So I guess I must be wrong. And so that type of unintentional, non-malicious gaslighting, and again, that's not a narcissist thing. That's just a human thing. But like a better thing is, "Mommy, what's wrong? You know what, honey, you're seeing that mom's upset and you're right. This is an adult thing and it's not your fault and you don't need to fix it. And I have lots of adult people to help me with my big feelings. But yeah, you're seeing that I'm upset." Like, okay. I'm going to get some angry DMs after that one, but it's true.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's similar to like the boundary conversation people have been talking about more of like, when you teach children that they don't even, right, like they can't say when they're hungry or full, or they can't say no to
hugs.
I think you are teaching them, again, I don't think it's malicious, but I think you are teaching them on a level that they, that boundaries aren't important, or they don't have a right to say no to certain things, or like with the hunger and fullness, like they can't trust their physical body sensations.
Exactly. And then with a narcissist, that principle is taken to the extreme, and it's done intentionally with the conscious intention to create chaos and to cause hurt and to do all of those things. All of that said, when people come to me and say, "Why did they do that?" I really encourage people to reframe, why did they do that? Can we instead say, "I don't like that they did that"? Because that puts you right back in your power and your choice points.
Totally.
I love this whole conversation. I'm kind of just like soaking it all in, because I've had a lot of clients over the years come in with kind of this like, "Oh, I was in a relationship with a narcissist. Oh, I did this. Oh, like my family member is a narcissist, this. And I think it's so common. And I think sometimes I myself have gotten, like, even as a clinician, have gotten sucked up into the, like that is narcissism. Like that is what it is. And right. And they are a narcissist. And I think now I've just been sitting here quietly listening to everything, like, traveling through space and time in my brain, kind of like leaning into this, challenging myself of saying, if I'm sitting here like yelling at people on social media that we need to start thinking of this differently and seeing it differently, I need to start practicing differently, I think, with my clients. And like, really, it also feels like validating to me too, because in so much of my clinical work, I am so focused on the idea of empowerment, and that our job is to make our clients feel powerful again, and not powerful in the manipulative sense or the patriarchal sense, but powerful in the sense that they can overcome what they've been through, that they don't have to be dictated to by what they've experienced, that they can speak about their life experiences and not be demolished by that, right? Like this idea of overcoming and working through. And I think what I love about this conversation is this approach does feel so empowering for people. And it goes up to what I brought up in the very beginning, which is that so much of the public domain conversation is very powerless. It's just like there's this sea of narcissists just like floating through the world, waiting to like sink their claws into you, and like there's nothing to be done, and like I've been caught, and like like dragged out, and people are like, "No, another narcissist revealed themselves." Like, and it's kind of funny to think of it in that light, but it's also kind of scary that people have become so distrustful of everything because of these labels and these titles, and everything feels big and overwhelming and scary, when really it's like, well, if you as an individual listening to this, if you're worried, if you're reflective of, oh God, maybe I was in fact in a relationship with someone who had these traits, or I am in a relationship with someone who has these traits, or my friend has these traits, or I'm a real housewife and I have these traits. You know, I think
we love you. Thanks for
exactly. You're here. We really like you. Please don't go anywhere. But I think to kind of come back to this place of like, well, if you take the time to get clear on your values, on your boundaries, on your expectations, on what matters to you in a relationship, you'll see these things from 10 miles away before they even have a chance to really impact you, because you'll see it when it is really small and you can easily still get out or ask for change or, you know, pivot in some way. So I find that this conversation is actually bringing like quite a lot of hope. And I don't know if that's naive of me to say, but that's kind of what I've been thinking this whole time listening to you too.
I love that. I can say that because I agree with you. I can say that in a really less nice, more infuriating, throw gasoline on the fire kind of way. And it's true. This is not a judgment, by the way. Going back to the shapes, narcissists find inverted narcissists. Like those shapes go together. You can't put a round peg in a square hole.
Right.
A narcissist isn't going to be a match for someone who's not an inverted narcissist. So like, if you're afraid of dating because you're afraid that you'll get narked by the sea of narcissists that are ready to pounce on you, well, okay, but if you have inverted narcissistic traits, we can fix that. Not fixed, you're not broken, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can adjust.
We can deal with that.
We can find more optimal ways to work with that, because someone who knows themselves, knows their values, is aligned with them, understands how to use their voice, and understands all of their different characters in their head and who's what. You won't be a match for a narcissist. So then you don't have to worry about it, because they are not attracted to people who know how to not be, I'll say codependent just because that's the word, right? Like a narcissistic person will be drawn towards a codependent person, which is why if you get discarded by a narcissist, it's actually an unintentional compliment. Because you're not a match for them, which means you must not be.
You're stronger than them. In many ways.
Like you're not feeding their supply.
You're not doing the thing. Like you're uninteresting. Gray rock, which is sort of the thing people tell you. Like you have to be as uninteresting as a gray rock. Yeah. Well, if a narcissist breaks up with you or goes to you or dumps you, congratulations. You have somehow managed to thwart their efforts by, you know, you didn't even try. It's not fun to be discarded. I've been there. It hurts. It's awful. It's like existential crisis moment. And it also is an unintended compliment.
I love that.
I love that too. I love both of what you just said. We're going to have you back, Britt, for a whole episode on borderline personality disorder. Can you give us like a preview of how borderline personality disorder is, I guess, this inverted triangle, or how they really fit together?
Yeah. And like, if I didn't get canceled this one, I'm definitely getting canceled on the next one. However, I had what the mental health world calls borderline personality disorder, high level symptoms of it for like 20 years. So this isn't me sitting on my chair taking notes on you. This is me. Right. So borderline and narcissism are sort of the inverse of each other. So if you understand one, you understand both. So borderline also, I don't think of as a personality disorder as much as an addiction, but I'll unpack that next time we talk.
Woohoo. Got it. That's so helpful. Is there anything, Britt, we haven't touched on or asked you about that you feel like is important for our listeners to know?
So there's been this trend, I don't know if you've noticed it, of people defending narcissists and saying that talking negatively about people with narcissism is ableist.
Oh, for the love of God.
This is a thing, and I've noticed it trending, and it's really unpleasant to be on the receiving end of. So I will say this. I am not saying that people who have high levels of narcissism, who are narcissistic, or who have NPD are like evil and should be shunned. I am saying these are the objective qualities that make this thing a thing. And if you're on the receiving end of it, whatever we call it, and you're okay with it, okay, I'm not here to tell you shouldn't be. And if you're struggling with them yourselves and you're like, well, I'm a narcissist and you're being ableist, I'm not being ableist. I'm just saying these are the qualities. Same thing with my borderline. It's like, this is what I did in reaction to having this particular cluster of symptoms. And to the degree that we have safety, access to resources, choice, and willingness, things can change.
Okay, I have to ask one more question.
Okay.
What are narcissists when they're doing this? Are they aware that they are doing this?
So this has been the hardest one for me to wrap my head around, because all of the people who make this their study will say yes. That's a hard pill to swallow for me even now. But I think that's more my personal shit, not wanting to believe that, than it not being
and
true.
what is awareness, right?
Right. Which part
there's
of
levels.
Them?
Right.
I don't think they're fully unconscious that like hitting someone is bad. So I don't think, or cheating on someone and lying to them about it and then gaslighting them is not good. Like their compass might be that they're fine with it, but then that's not really narcissism. That's more sociopathy. And that turns into another conversation.
Well, and I think there's plenty of people that know they're doing what they're doing. They don't know the why. They don't know the motivation behind what they're doing. They know they engage in these, I think in a lot of ways, like maladaptive coping skills, right? But they don't know the why. They just know at the surface level, it gets their needs met. It scratches the right itch. It takes care of their worst impulses and gets them out of accountability and whatever else. But nobody has ever like held their hand through like digging into the motivation and the why.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Britt. This was such a great conversation. Literally, in addition to the other ones, I'm like, we should have you back for sociopathy.
Oh my
we should
God,
have you back for codependency.
I'm not an expert on sociopathy, but codependency, we can talk about that all day.
Okay. You have an incredible book that just came out. Can you tell us about it, where we can get it, how to find you, all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's called Align Your Mind, and it's all things parts work and how to help all the voices in your head get along with each other. And if you are an inverted narcissist, this will help you correct the triangle inversion so that you're just there. It's sort of like the orchestra conductor with all the instruments. That's our minds. And in a very non-clinical, non-therapy jargon, just normal person speak. That's the book, and you can buy it everywhere you buy books. And find me on Instagram at Britt Frank.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
Britt.
Britt.
This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.